For years, we've all been told the same thing, right? The key to success is to find your niche, get super specialized, and just dominate it. But what if that's only half the story? What if the real key is something completely different? Today, we are diving into a really powerful, kind of counterintuitive idea, the paradox principle. We're going to explore how the biggest opportunities aren't found where things are simple and easy, but where they're in direct, productive tension. Okay, let's just break this down. The classic advice says to play it safe. Find a narrow niche, be the absolute best at that one thing, and build up walls to keep everyone else out. I mean, it's logical, sure, but it's also really limiting. The new way, it flips this whole idea on its head. Instead of looking for safety, you're actively searching for tension. Instead of building walls, you're building bridges between worlds that seem like opposites. You're not trying to avoid competition, you're harnessing contradiction to create a category where you're pretty much the only one there. And this really forces us to ask a huge question. We're all trained to look for problems and then sell these neat, tidy solutions. But this new model asks us to reframe everything. What if the real breakthroughs, the game-changing opportunities, are actually hiding in plain sight as these tensions we've been taught to just ignore or smooth over? This is the core idea we're going to unpack right now. So, how do we actually find these powerful tensions? Well, the answer lies in a concept called bridge niches. And this isn't about finding one perfect category. It's about finding two that seem to have absolutely nothing in common and then connecting them. Let's take a kind of wild example here. On one side, we've got alpaca farming. I mean, think rural, hands-on, agricultural. On the complete other side, you've got IT consulting, urban, technical, corporate. I mean, these two worlds could not seem further apart. Or so it seems. They serve different customers, they need different skills, they solve different problems. Or do they? And here it is. This is the aha moment. The bridge niche is born right from that paradox. By applying the systems thinking of IT consulting to the, let's face it, operational chaos of running an alpaca farm, you create something brand new, a service that systemizes alpaca farm operations. All of a sudden, you've created a high-value, super low-competition market that neither of those niches could ever see on its own. So, the crucial point is this. A bridge niche is the result of productive tension. It's not a compromise. It's a synthesis that creates a whole new level of value. I mean, think about it. Apple combined high technology with high design. Netflix merged Silicon Valley tech with Hollywood storytelling. They created all this new value in the space between the established categories. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's a clever strategy for a startup. But it turns out, this way of thinking is absolutely essential at the highest levels of leadership. It's really the key to what we might call the CEO's mind. This quote from Adam Bryant, who's interviewed hundreds of CEOs, just hits the nail on the head. He found that the most important skill for a top leader isn't just one thing, but the ability to manage paradox, to hold two opposing ideas in their head at the exact same time and still function. They have to be obsessed with short-term results and be a long-term visionary. They have to be deeply data-driven and trust their gut intuition. This is the skill that totally crushes analysis paralysis. But here's where it gets really fascinating. This whole idea of holding tension to create a breakthrough, it isn't just a business metaphor. It's actually grounded in the fundamental laws of physics. Yeah, there's a deep scientific reason why these moments of paradox are so incredibly powerful. Think of it this way. Classical logic is like a light switch. It's either on or off. Simple. But the physicist Stefan Lupasco argued there's a third state, kind of like a dimmer switch that's held right in the middle. It's not fully on, not fully off, but it exists in this state of dynamic tension. He called this the T state, and it's where all the potential energy is stored, just waiting for a release. To make this real, let's talk about supercooled water. We all know water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius, right? But if you carefully cool pure water, you can actually get it below 0 while it stays a liquid. That is the T state. It's unstable, it's volatile, and it is packed with potential energy. And what happens when you introduce a single shock, like tapping the glass? An explosive, instantaneous freeze. That's the breakthrough, that sudden, dramatic release of all that stored up energy. And that brings us right back to business. That explosive growth, that viral product, that thing everyone calls an overnight success, it's not random, it's not magic, it's the market equivalent of that water freezing. The spike is the sudden release of energy that was trapped in a market's T state, a powerful tension between what people desperately want and the fact that there are no good solutions. So, if these breakthroughs are a release of pent-up energy, the next logical question is, can we engineer them? Can we intentionally create the tension and then trigger the release ourselves? Well, the answer seems to be yes. The key, amazingly, can be found in the work of Nikola Tesla. In electrical systems, there's this kind of recoil force that most engineers try to eliminate because it just seems like wasted energy. But Tesla had this radical idea. What if you didn't fight that force? What if you intentionally created the conditions for a massive recoil? He discovered that by doing this, he could generate an enormous, off-the-charts spike of power. He didn't avoid the tension, he engineered it. And here is where it all just clicks together. Tesla's physics provides a perfect blueprint for business strategy. The magnetic field he created, that's the market paradox, that tension we talked about. The sudden collapse of that field, that's your business trigger, a new product, a new technology that just shatters the old way of doing things. And that massive BMF spike, well, that's your nonlinear explosive success. You're not just competing anymore, you're triggering a fundamental release of market energy. We can even boil this down to a kind of conceptual formula. The size of your breakthrough is basically determined by two things. First, the amount of tension you create. That's the gap between a compelling vision of the future and the powerful anchor of how things are done today. The wider that gap, the more potential energy. Second, you multiply that tension by the intensity of your focus. The greater the tension and the sharper your focus on triggering the change, the bigger the leap forward you're going to get. So ultimately, what we're talking about here is so much more than just a business tactic. It's a fundamental shift in how you see the world. It's like a whole new operating system for identifying and creating opportunity. So what does this new operating system look like in practice? Well, it means you shift from trying to find simple answers to identifying the most powerful tensions. You stop avoiding difficult problems and you start actively seeking out paradoxes. You're no longer just competing in a market that exists, you're using tension to create a brand new one. And crucially, you move from the paralysis of overanalyzing everything to the decisive action of engineering breakthroughs. So I'll just leave you with this one question to carry with you. As you go about your work, your life, ask yourself this. What are the two opposing, contradictory forces that you feel the most strongly? What is that tension that creates the most discomfort for you? Because hidden inside that very paradox might just be your single greatest opportunity. What is the most valuable tension that you're currently ignoring?